When we start the 3 weeks, we need to know the halachot that are really mikar adin, what the law really requires to do, and the rest are minhagim. One needs to know that Chachamim only restricted very few things when it comes to the 3 weeks. For example, Chachamim said that one may not eat meat or drink wine. When is that isur? That isur, according to the Gemara, only in Shevuah Shechalbo, the last meal before the fast. This that we start much before that, that's already Minhagim that started later on. Sfaradim start the day after Rosh Chodesh, and Ashkenazim already start not eating meat or drinking wine on Rosh Chodesh. Temanim, the Yemenites, on the other hand, they go according Mikar Adin, according what the law is. The law was just Shevuah Shechalbo, that's all it is. And therefore, anything you do beforehand would only be a minhag. Just like this is a minhag, and Mikar Adin was just very strict to only the Shevuah Shechalbo, so does many other things. For example, this halacha that people start doing all kind of chumrot from beginning of Ben HaMetzarim, which is from Yuzayin B'Tammuz, really according to the Gemara, there's nothing there. The only thing that the Gemara, the halacha, points out is that one should not go to dangerous places at those times. So therefore, from the beginning of Yuzayin B'Tammuz, all you have, the only implication you'll find is not to go to dangerous places, not do dangerous things, and minhagim that started later on, not to listen to music, and so on. Ashkenazim also restricted getting married from that time. Sfaradim are more lenient in that, and they only start not getting married from Rosh Chodesh Av. That's all. And therefore, when we look at Mikar Adin, what really the Gemara told us that's asur, those are very few things. For instance, it starts from Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh Av, the Gemara says that one should not get married, and that's about it. Not getting married from Rosh Chodesh Av. Why did Chachamim restrict us from getting married from Rosh Chodesh Av? The reason for that, the Bach explains, is that Chachamim wanted to restrict anything that brings happiness. Mishenichnas Av, mematim besimcha. One should reduce happiness on Chodesh Av. Therefore, everything that we do now from Rosh Chodesh Av, those are only minhagim. Because of that halacha, that one should reduce happiness. But when Chachamim spoke about what not to do, they pointed out not getting married. That's all. That's about making one's happy. And therefore, such a thing should be asur. The question is, why basar and yain, which also brings into happiness? Yain is a samach lev enosh. Basar, we're saying, en simcha elo bebasar. Imken, why is it that Chachamim didn't restrict that Mikar Adin, as we explained before, and they only restricted that to Shevuah Shechalbo, says the Bach, because one needs meat and wine for his well-being. Therefore, although it brings into happiness, but if a person doesn't eat meat and drink wine, it would bring him into tsar. That Chachamim didn't want to be oser on Rosh Chodesh. Later on, we get closer to Tisha B'Av, we're getting into something that is called Shevuah Shechalbo, which is the week of Tisha B'Av. The week of Tisha B'Av, starting from that Motzei Shabbat, there are a few things also that Chachamim restricted Mikar Adin. That's kibus v'tisporet, which means one is not allowed to wash his garments, make washes, also not to wear anything that was washed. With that also, they restricted taking haircuts. So therefore, those are very limited things that Chazal prohibited. Why those two things? Says the Bach, because those bring you happiness to the body. Ta'anuga guf, inuga guf, oneg. That makes somebody feels comfortable when he wears washed clothing. Also, when he shaves, when he takes a haircut, and therefore that's what Chachamim restricted. Everything else, they just waited till Shevuah Shechalbo to say those things that we explained before that one shouldn't do, and whatever was asur on Tisha B'Av itself, which will be explained at a different time. So therefore, everything else, as we're explaining right now, would be minhagim. And that's the reason you'll find many different in minhagim between Sfaradim and Ashkenazim. A lot of differences. Ashkenazim normally took step ahead and they further the restrictions, which means as we explained before, already in Yudayin B'Tammuz, Ashkenazim wouldn't get married. Sfaradim only wouldn't get married from Rosh Chodesh Av. That's all. When it comes to shaving, also shaving, Ashkenazim took it also much further, and they don't shave already from Yudayin B'Tammuz, don't take a haircut. Sfaradim, they took it only for Shevuah Shechalbo. That's all. Just like Meikar Adin. And sometimes when Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbat, and then the halacha is that you push Tisha B'Av to a Sunday, then you don't have Shevuah Shechalbo altogether, and therefore shaving and taking a haircut will be allowed. Although it's allowed Meikar Adin, but the rabbis say that one should come into Tisha B'Av when he's menuval, he's not shaved, he doesn't look good, therefore a few days beforehand he should stop shaving in order that he should come like this to Tisha B'Av looking a little bit not well, not like all well shaven. And that is benogea to shaving. How about the bath? Bathing also, Ashkenazim take that as a restriction from Rosh Chodesh. They already don't bathe from Rosh Chodesh. Sfaradim normally from Shevuah Shechalbo. And if there's no Shevuah Shechalbo, then they could bathe all the way, take a shower all the way through. And that also, there is a machloket between the poskim. What does it mean not taking a shower? Does it mean cold water as well? Or just cold water would be allowed as long as it's not a comfortable pleasure shower, which means with hot water. So if one makes it a little bit uncomfortable, that might be allowed, because the only reason for that is to take away and wash the sweat, which is like dirt on the body, that one is allowed to take off. Also, using a soap, there are poskim that want to allow using a soap to take off the sweat of the body. It's not to feel more pleasure, just to take away the dirt out of the body. So if that one does it with coldish water, that's bearable, or even more than that, that would be, according to many poskim, allowed. So we're talking about few issues over here that one needs to take upon himself. That is taking showers and bathing and cleaning his clothing and so on and so forth. Wearing new clothing also. And wearing new clothing, the restriction is already, also according to Shulchan Aruch, and also according to the Ashkenazim, that's already from Rosh Chodesh. From Rosh Chodesh on, one should not buy or wear new clothing. And from Yudayin B'Tammuz, if the clothing require bracha shechayanu, one should not have such a thing or wear such a thing, because you don't say the bracha shechayanu on this time. Although there are poskim that allow you to say shechayanu on Shabbat, like the Mishnah Berurah brings down la halacha, and many poskim Sfaradim bring down la halacha. But the Arizal said not to make shechayanu even on Shabbat. So one that wants to be strict and keep those clothing for after Tisha B'Av, that's preferable. When it comes, this is about shopping for clothing, buying clothing, and so on. Buying furniture would be the same way. One that doesn't need to buy the furniture shouldn't buy it from Rosh Chodesh on. Rather, either beforehand or afterwards. Anything that brings such a simcha, one should prevent himself and stop doing that a little bit from Rosh Chodesh, or if possible a little bit before then as well, if he doesn't have to buy those things right now. Many times people need to go to vacations. Can a person go to vacation? So also that time, the spirit of the time doesn't allow one to feel that you can just go to vacation at that time, although the halachas doesn't strictly prohibit such a thing, and therefore many do use that time to go to vacations because it's a summer, the kids are out, what are you going to do with them? So people do go, but you need to know, to take everything in perspective, that not always it's the right thing to go to places that are fun places at the time that Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. The poskim also allow one to go into a pool when it's not a dangerous pool. As we said before, from Yudayin B'Tammuz, people should make sure they don't go into dangerous places. But if it's not a dangerous place, so one can go into a pool, and with that you'll have the same halachot as we explained before, the difference between Sfaradim and Ashkenazim, that since Ashkenazim don't take showers from Rosh Chodesh, Ashkenazim shouldn't go from Rosh Chodesh Av and on to a pool. But Sfaradim that allow to take a shower or bath until Shevuah Shechalbo, and if there's no Shevuah Shechalbo all the way through, so also here one is allowed to take to go to such a pool. Go into the ocean, it's a little bit more strict because of the danger. there is a danger going to ocean. Some would say it's not a danger. It depends where the ocean is and what exactly is done in the ocean. If a person goes deep and goes to a dangerous place with that lifesaver. Also, when we're dealing with flights, one that needs to take a flight, some of the poskim look at the flight as a dangerous thing. That's the reason you would, for instance, make a beracha afterwards, a gomel. You come out of the flight to make a gomel. Why is that? Because we look at that as a dangerous thing to do. But many other poskim would say there's no danger. Shmuel Kamenetsky wrote beferush in the Sefer that there's no danger in taking a flight, and one is allowed to take a flight. So, la'alacha, if one already booked, or he needs to book, and there's no other time, or it's much more expensive at other times, he could book a flight and go on the flight on that time. But if it's possible to do it before or after, one should be careful and not do at that time.